Alright everyone, good morning, Thursday morning. A wee test, Ryan, to see who the early risers are amongst the Celtic Way community. Erin's there. She's there a couple of minutes before, what is it your time, 8:30? Yeah, 8:30 in the morning.
8:30, just
Um,
after 25 to 9.
it's an alright time, isn't it? But the chat's quite quiet, so obviously people are a wonderful fan base, like a wee lion generally. Are people with us? Let us know if you're there and you're chatting and all of that kind of stuff. A lot of people might be watching afterwards anyway. Ryan, how's it going today?
Things are good, yeah. Very, very busy day yesterday, recording a couple of things, but it's more anticipation today, to be honest, because it's the Champions League draw, really, really exciting. The end of the transfer window, the small matter of a Glasgow derby as well at the end of the week, which strangely enough, I was doing a preview of that last night and yesterday morning, and I felt like it wasn't even close. I didn't even think that the derby was that close away, and then all of a sudden it's 3 days away. It's kind of crept up on us. Once the transfer window shuts at 11 o'clock on Friday, I think all focus will then shift to the Glasgow derby at the weekend. It's going to be crazy. It's going to go from 0 to 100 really, really quickly, in my opinion. But really busy week, big momentous week for Celtic. Here's hoping that they can get the business done. And yeah, then they can focus on Sunday's events.
We've only got less than 2 days now, Ryan. What, about 30, probably about 38, 39 hours, 40 hours, something like that. Rough maths left of the transfer window. So there's really not long left and we still need 3 players. Where are we with various players coming in? The update yesterday was that Mateusz Bogic isn't happening. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one because I thought that Celtic were in for Mateusz Bogic and Arne Engels, but it seems as if they've just stopped the negotiations there, as if now we're going to push all in for Engels and maybe somebody else. A couple of hours later, after hearing about that development, the Alvyn Sanches name came back up, which would make you think that he's potentially second choice, second option. That isn't a problem. Matt O'Reilly was second choice back in 2022 when it was Riley McGree. He agreed to go to Middlesbrough, or he agreed to move elsewhere, and then Matt O'Reilly was brought in, and that's worked out pretty well, I would say, for Celtic. So yeah, I would have liked to have seen Bogic. I think I was more excited to see Bogic because of his versatility as well. He can play anywhere in
Yeah.
the forward line as well as attacking midfield. It seems as if Alvyn Sanches is more of a number 10 or a number 8 in the midfield. That's his role. He's like a sort of lanky footballer, taller midfielder
Nothing
that can
wrong with
get
being
about.
lanky. Nothing wrong with
No,
being
no,
lanky.
no, trust me, I'm jealous.
I speak from experience.
Yeah, but by all accounts, he does look like a good player. Tony was talking to Raman Vega about him a couple of weeks ago, and he said everybody in Switzerland is talking about this player. So definitely an exciting one. I read a report last night that was saying that it would be a potential loan with an option to buy, which again confused me a wee bit because Celtic were going to be spending 7-8 million on Bogic plus the money that they had on Engels. So why would they suddenly make it a loan? That's a bit perplexing to me. But I just hope that they get that situation sorted. Rodgers wants 2 midfielders, so give the manager what he wants, basically.
So why do you think and I'll open this up to everyone in the chat as well. And by the way, Plunge, we're on early because Ryan's doing another recording later, so that's the reason we're on a wee hour and a half early. And why is the Bogic stuff not happening? Do you reckon? Is it, you wouldn't think it would be a financial thing, although maybe LAFC are looking at the situation and just saying they don't want to sell him maybe until the end of the MLS season or something like that. But it seems like we've pivoted very quickly from Bogic because, as you say, when the Bogic stuff, we heard that wasn't going to be happening. Very soon after that, the Alvyn Sanches stuff came up again. And that's a player we've wanted for a while, I think it's fair to say. Was it earlier this summer? I have a feeling we heard his name last summer as well. I could be getting mixed up, but I feel like we knew his name last summer as well. It's someone Brendan Rodgers clearly likes. I thought if it was a thing of Engels or Sanches, I wasn't a fan of bringing Sanches in because I just feel like Engels is like a higher kind of level player, just the league he's playing in and the price tag and all of that kind of stuff. If it's Engels and Sanches, that could potentially work. I still feel we need 2 midfielders in. You're always going to get mentions of Luke McCowan as well. The cynic in me has a feeling. I mean, I did say it yesterday that I didn't think Bogut's would happen. And then the cynic in me does just wonder if we'll end up with Engels and then like Luke McCowan, and that'll be a lot for midfield.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about Luke McCowan last night because I've been speaking about him quite a lot over the past few days. He's a player that hasn't moved from Dundee to wherever yet. It's a bit of a surprising one. I thought there was a lot of interest in the player from both Bolton and Hibs. I think regardless of what happens, he will be moving on in this window, whether that is to Hibs down south or indeed to Celtic. But I just don't know how many games he would get at Celtic, to be honest, with how busy the midfield is, as it is before even signing Engels. Now, Engels will come into this team. We're all presuming that negotiation we've finalised in the next day or so. It has to be done in the next day or so, one way or the other. But you'd think that would be completed and he would make his move to Celtic. You aren't buying a player for 10, 11 million and expecting them to sit on the bench. I'd be saying, if not starting at the weekend, then the first game back after the international break, he's going to be playing every game from now on, whether that's in the number 6, 8 or 10 position. I think he'll be one of the constants in the team from now until the end of the season once he signs. Record signings don't come to sit on the bench. I know Adam Ida's a bit of a different situation with Kyogo, and he being one of the bigger signings for Celtic, but that position, horses for courses, etc. Just with that position, the midfield area, you've got Hatate, you've got McGregor there. You'd think that'd be the midfield three if it was McGregor, Hatate, and Engels wherever he was playing. We've also got Bernardo, you've also got Odin Thiago Home, you've also got Francis Turley. Then you add in Luke McCowan. Would he be getting games for Celtic? Would he be coming off the bench for Celtic in games? Iwata, there has been talk. It's just talk at the moment. There has been sort of murmurings that he might be leaving the club for pastures new for a couple of million, which probably in search of more game time because he is in his prime and he's not getting any games whatsoever. Didn't even make the bench for the game against St Mirren, so his future may lie elsewhere, which is a shame because I know that me and you both do like Iwata and what he brings to the club, both on and off the park, you would say. But yeah, I just think the midfield area, put in some quality there. Sanches looks like a decent enough prospect in Switzerland. He seems to be a very highly regarded talent. That's a player that maybe Brendan Rodgers can nurture. I was watching some of his clips. He does remind me a bit of O'Reilly, the way that he plays. That taller midfielder that likes a goal or two. So that would be good. And maybe Engels would play further back, and then you've got that dynamic of being able to replace O'Reilly. But I just don't see where Luke McCowan unfortunately fits in this team if he was to come, apart from being a homegrown player for the Champions League criteria.
Do you know? I think not every. I mean, I agree. He's not going to come in, and I wouldn't think if we did sign McCowan, he wouldn't come in and be like a starter in the Champions League or anything like that. But do you not think there's a value in like a squad player there? I mean, the obvious one when we're talking about Luke McCowan, I think is someone like Johnny Hayes. And listen, Johnny Hayes wasn't a spectacular Celtic player. I'm not going to tell people he was, but Johnny Hayes did a job for us for a number of years. I know McCowan's a different kind of player, but there may be some sort of merit in that signing if it does happen. Personally, I would much rather we're looking at Engels and someone like Alvyn Sanches. But I think for me, the priority is we get Engels in. That deal has to be done. I think reports yesterday we've offered £10 million. That must be the most Celtic have ever offered for a player in our history. So we're starting to kind of spend money, and I think we're going to spend money over the next 2 days, but we really don't have long. Engels needs to be done. There's also reports, I think Blake, they're talking about us turning down 10 million for Reo Hatate as well, an unnamed French club apparently went in for Hatate, just like there was an unnamed Russian club earlier in the summer that turned out to be Zenit St. Petersburg. So I mean 10 million is pretty insulting for Hatate, to be honest, and I don't think we could sell him even for double that at the moment, given his importance to the team, given we've just lost Matt O'Reilly. He's not for sale, Hatate. But the cynic in you, and I know a few people have brought it up already, is that you fail to get Boguts in, and then suddenly a report comes out about us rebuffing a bid for Hatate. Oh, like a new signing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you don't want to be as cynical as that, but you know that this is the way that the board can act sometimes in terms of putting out a story, putting the feelers out, and sort of deflecting from the fact that they're not doing their own business, the fact that they've rejected other teams, even if now I'm hoping and praying, to be honest, that that was the case and they're not just making up reports to make it look as if Celtic are being busy in the final days. The one thing that is definitely clear is that Hatate is not for sale at any price. It, a team could offer, but it would have to take a catastrophically big bid for Celtic to lose Hatate in this window. I think he's so important to the way that Celtic are playing so far this season. You've seen that against St Mirren, how important he is, and not just his own individual ability, but the way he's bringing other players into the game as well. He's allowing Callum McGregor to go further forward. He's bringing Bernardo into the game, and he's doing the defensive work too. 10 million is an insulting offer, as you said. I don't even think Celtic would part with double that for Hatate at this moment in time. I think he's going to be so important, starting on Sunday. Such an important player, especially in the Champions League as well, with that press-resistant style that he's got. He's so important when breaking the lines in midfield, especially on the counter-attack when Celtic are under the cosh a bit. I just think that we're on the cusp of something really special with Hatate this season. If he can maintain his consistency both in performances and injury trouble, or lack of injury trouble, then I think he's going to have a great season, supported by the likes of Engels, McGregor and Bernardo in that midfield.
I'm not worried about us losing any players, I don't think, between now and the deadline. Kyogo would be the only one, but it doesn't seem like that's going to come to anything from Man City. That could change, but I would kind of hope, regardless of the offer at this stage, we're past the point where we could lose one of our key players, because there's simply not enough time to replace them. So it should all be all about bringing players in. It shouldn't be getting to this stage of the window. Brendan Rodgers isn't happy about that, but that's where we're at. So where you wouldn't think we're going to announce any players today officially, because these things take a wee while. I know Alex Valle is meeting the media later today, so people can look out for what he has to say. But these signings are going to be made on deadline day. Tomorrow's going to be a mad day, because we're going to be hearing loads of different reports about probably 3 or 4 players. We've got Engels in there, Alvyn Sanches, we've got Austin Trusty. You could throw in a new name in there, someone like Luke McCowan potentially last minute. So tomorrow's going to be a frantic day. And the club still have three big players they need to get in for me, and they can't fall short of that. If we do fall short of that, it's really not going to reflect well on them, and we're simply not giving Brendan Rodgers everything he needs to go into the Champions League. The club have to deliver 3 quality players, and they've only got 30-40 hours to do it.
You're hoping that these deals are pretty far down the line. I was talking earlier this week on Monday. I made the sort of benchmark that 4 signings would be absolutely ideal. I just seen that something else came up on my phone there about transfers, so I will bring that up in a wee second. 4 big major transfer signings this week would really strengthen the squad. Right now they've got 1. They've still got time. They've still got a day and a bit. But I feel like we've been saying they've got time all transfer window now. And now really time is of the essence. Engels looks pretty far down the line. If Celtic are offering 10, 11 million, then they're pretty serious about a player, because I don't think they've offered that in their history before in terms of actual number. They've hit a new stratosphere when it comes to offering money for a player. It might even go as far to 12 million, which would be the all-time Scottish record for a player, which is Tore Andre Flo for Rangers back in 2000. It's very, very possible that he could reach that figure. And I think that'd be a real statement of intent if Celtic were to offer that and get the deal done, and say, right, we've got money, we are financially well off, and we're going to sign this player because he is vital to what we have to do in the coming years. Once this deal is announced, then I can properly get excited about Arne Engels, but right now, you just get that wee sinking feeling in the back of your head. It's like, why has this not been completed yet? Why is it taking so long? Why is the Augsburg manager saying that he'll be available at the weekend, even though I know that Brendan Rodgers said the same thing about Matt O'Reilly? Just the way these things work and transpire. Just want this deal done. This is the most important one. As much as Austin Trusty and Celtic need a centre-back badly, and maybe another midfielder as well, hopefully that gets done, Arne Engels is the important one. You cannot sell Matt O'Reilly and not bring in a replacement after he's gone, regardless if you bought Bernardo earlier on in the window. It just, from the outside looking in, it's just a disastrous viewpoint if you don't adequately replace Matt O'Reilly. With this young player, as I said yesterday, there's plenty of upside to his game, and I think he can develop and be that player that Matt O'Reilly was, and maybe even more so. It's all about getting that deal done and getting it done quickly. I'm just going to read this report and then see if there's anything new being said.
Go for it.
I'm still loading it.
Sorry, you're reading it. I thought you meant reading it out loud, Ryan. I'll talk for you, but then I was going to...
Engels and Trusty.
Yeah. I was going to... what was I going to say there? Fabulous. It's that early that I've forgotten what I was going to say. Yeah, what I was going to say was I think it's... you're talking about the midfield being the important one. I think all three of them are important. That's the issue that's the stage we've got to in this transfer window. It's not as if these are signings that are just adding to the work we've already done. These are like vital signings. We've known we've needed a centre back all summer. It's crucial for me that we find a centre back to partner Cameron Carter-Vickers at Champions League level. Is Austin Trusty that guy? We'll need to wait and see, but it doesn't seems like the club are having bids rejected there as well with Sheffield United. So again, if we want him, we need to offer what he's worth. The time for bartering is over. We're nearly at the end of the window. Left back, fair enough, we've ticked that off. And Brendan Rodgers wants two midfielders as well. He wanted one before Matt O'Reilly went. So those are crucial positions as well. Have you read up?
Yes, it's saying a report from Scottish media saying that 16 million is going to be spent on Arne Engels and Austin Trusty together. So that's a fair outlay for two positions in the squad, and it is money getting spent, which is good, and it's what we want to see. It had to be done because they've just made 25 more million because of Matt O'Reilly, plus all the Champions League money that's going to come through, plus the fact that they're financially well off anyway before any of that even comes in. It's necessary. I think they might be overspending just a tad because of the time of the window, and now clubs are now holding Celtic a bit to ransom with the fact that they're desperate for transfers. These teams will need last minute replacements as well because they're also in the transfer window. You know, Sheffield United will need a new centre back. I don't envy Augsburg at all because they need to somehow find an Engels replacement, and he's the sort of diamond in their midfield. He's their real talent. Yes. With 10, 11 million, they should be able to do that somewhere in Germany, but it'll be a tough task. But it's pretty much their problem once the
that's what we're having to do. We're having to replace Matt O'Reilly. So
it's a dog-eat-dog world in the transfer window, and that's just the way it goes. That's the way business happens and transpires. But I just hope that this gets done as soon as.
Your mic's gone off, Ryan. I'll go through a few.
You hear me okay?
Yeah, I think you've gone on to a different mic, but that's all right. I can chat for a wee bit. I'll go through a few of your comments. I mean, Thomas was in earlier saying that he's finding it difficult to get up for the Champions League draw. We'll come on and talk about that in a wee second, Thomas, but I take it that's just down to the lack of signings and the feeling maybe that we're not going to compete at that level, which is certainly you're not alone in feeling that way. I think we'll do all right in the Champions League. I know that's an incredibly vague thing to say. I think we'll have probably at least one really torrid night where we lose by 3 or 4 or possibly more, but that's just what happens at that level against a top team. I think we'll probably have some disappointing results when we play well, maybe similar to last season, and I think we might win a couple of games this year. I was doing a bit of digging into how many points you're probably needing to get through to the next round, Ryan, and I believe it's about 10 points should guarantee it. 9 probably won't guarantee it. 9 could do it, 8 could do it, but 10's what we should be aiming for. 10 seems quite an ambitious number, I would say, given our recent record in Europe. Mark reckons that home could be like a new signing for us this season. Conversely, Scott thinks that if Sanchez comes in, home will be going out on loan. I'm not convinced that Brendan Rodgers likes home to be honest. I don't get the impression. I think we would have seen Home more had that been the case, but maybe Home will be loaned out. That might not be the worst thing. I know, Ryan, you quite like him. Yeah, Big Dom wondering why we left our dealings to the last minute and weakened our negotiation position. Yeah, I think that's what the manager was alluding to on Sunday after the game when he said, what was the phrase he said, Ryan? We can't manufacture our own stress or something. Stress. That's exactly what he's saying when he says that. Like, there is no reason for us to be going this late into the window and having clubs, knowing we have the money and knowing that we're desperate to get players in and we have a fan base who are disgruntled at the very least. Just do your business earlier. I really hope this is the final window when we're doing this. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think there'll be huge change at the club, but Brendan Rodgers clearly feels there needs to be. Anything else in transfers just before we move on to the Champions League stuff?
Maybe more outgoings than incomes. It's good to see that Mikey Johnson is leaving the club. I don't mean it in that way. I don't mean it to say, oh, thank goodness he's going. But I think just for the sake of his career, and I'm glad it's West Brom as well, the team that sort of revitalised his senior career in the second half.
Is it West Brom? I thought it was Sheffield United.
It seems as if he's chose, because he had 3 offers. Celtic accepted 3 offers from 3 different teams. Burnley, okay, Sheffield United and West Brom, but it seems as if it's going to be West Brom that he's going to, and I think that's the best move for him. He knows that he'll be a first team pick there almost straight away. He was their best player arguably in the second half of the season, and I hope he goes and smashes it, to be honest. I hope he goes and really kicks on in his senior career, because it's been a really tough time for him since he made his debut. Injuries, loss of form, different managers coming in, some managers liking him more than others. I just want to see him go and kick on down south and really make a name for himself in his career in a good way. But Celtic are getting around about 3 million for him, which is pretty good business, I would say, for a player that's not really going to make any impact this season. I would say that's been one of the successes of the transfer window. Maybe not the timing of it and the time it's taken for these players to leave, but the fact that there's so much, not deadwood, but players that aren't going to make an impact going away from the club. That's a positive, and it'll look positive on the wage packet as well, or the wage structure at the moment.
Right, let's talk Champions League. The draw is later today, 5 p.m. Celtic Park time. That's when UEFA say it will start. We know that UEFA tend to drag these things out a little bit with their awards and explanations, and yeah, the explanation may take a bit longer today because it's the first time we're doing this. I've been reading into it, so I can explain a little bit how it's going to work. By the way, if anyone has any questions on it, on the format or the draw today or whatever, fire them in and I'll do my best to answer them, because I feel like I've spent far too long looking into it. AJSC Tech was wondering what ex-Celtic players are in the draw today. Only Virgil. Jeremy Frimpong will be in it for Bayer Leverkusen. I'm looking at the teams, Ryan, and trying to think if there's any other former Celtic players for any of the teams. Ben Doak, yeah, Liverpool, good shout. I mean, you could have Andy Robertson, I guess, at a stretch. Kieran Tierney, who's Kieran Tierney going to be with?
Still at Arsenal just now, but I don't know if his contract's getting wrapped up.
Technically, Kieran Tierney, he could end up at one of the other teams. In terms of, there's been quite a few kind of familiar names playing for other teams, hasn't there? I mean, pot 4, you've got Bojan Miovski's at Girona, their potential opponents. Lewis Ferguson at Bologna, potential opponents. John McGinn at Aston Villa, in pot 4. So there could be a number.
Dallas team at Brest as well.
Right. Okay. That's enough.
He's a familiar face. I don't really want them in pot 4. I'm kind of fed up with Abdallah Sima and his fast running style against Greg Taylor, to be honest. Although it might be value this time.
Have you had a look at the teams we can face? Is there anyone in particular you fancy playing? I really fancy Aston Villa. I want an English team. We've not played an English team in ages. I think we rise to it. I think Brendan Rodgers rises to it. And I think, quite simply, Aston Villa would give us the best chance. I don't fancy Man City, even though we scudded them in pre-season. Liverpool, not particularly. Maybe at Celtic Park, that could be fun. I don't really fancy Arsenal because they are one of the best teams in Europe at the moment. Aston Villa, very good team, exceptional manager, exceptional players. But I would fancy a Battle of Britain, let's just say, against Aston Villa, and I'd kind of fancy Celtic to give them a really good game, especially at Celtic Park. I think that would be a winnable match. I guess when I'm saying that, though, they do come from pot 4, and you do have some maybe teams, maybe kind of less formidable teams in pot 4. Tough matches. Every match is going to be tough, but you're looking at teams like Slovan Bratislava, who qualified last night, and Sturm Graz, and Stade Brestois, Sparta Prague, and you're even maybe Girona, and you're thinking potentially, one of them at Celtic Park would be good. Who have you got in your mind?
I'd love a trip to Bruges. Club Brugge would be quite good, I think. I would really like to see that one. Borussia Dortmund, home or away. I would take the away.
I'd love that.
That would be
Dortmund.
I think everybody would sign up for Dortmund if it was Dortmund away. That would be the
Dortmund
game
away would be good.
Yeah. Oh, that Celtic part or Celtic supporters would take over Dortmund, and I think it'd be a festival of football because the two fans would get on so well. I think it'd be an absolutely brilliant sight. Shakhtar Donetsk would be a good one as well.
Yeah, a lot of people saying Benfica and Sporting Lisbon. A lot of people fancying a trip to Lisbon. And I think that the Estadio Nacional is soon closing down, isn't it? So a lot of people saying Lisbon could be a fun one if we manage that.
Yeah, just as I was saying there, Shakhtar Donetsk, they're playing in Gelsenkirchen as well. So that'd be another good Germany trip. Aston Villa, home or away, really. I wouldn't mind going down to Villa Park. I think Villa Park would be a tremendous occasion. If you want a Battle of Britain and away from home, then it would be Aston Villa at Villa Park. Even just talking about it gets you excited. This is the point where you can speculate while you wait for the draw to actually happen. Once it's there, you know what's happening, and you know the way the schedule's going to be. A mixture of the two, a mixture of glamour-ties and winnable games would be great for me. The more winnable games, the better. But I don't think you can get an easy draw in these, because I think the way it'll work itself out, if you maybe get a favourable draw in pot 1 or pot 2, then you'd maybe find one of the harder ones in pot 3. Pot 4 coefficient's a crazy thing. The fact that Celtic are a pot 3 team is quite crazy as well. It shows that the expansion of the Champions League, because there's teams that have maybe tasting this for maybe only the first or second time in their history, which is great to see. The likes of Girona. I'd like someone out of the box as well, just like a Sturm Graz or something, to go on a different trip. We've been, I've not personally been to Barcelona and Milan and that, but Celtic have, and it'd be good to get different names and new sort of memories to talk about against different teams. So yeah, it's a really exciting moment, but regardless of who they get, there'll be 4 really exciting away trips to happen and 4 massive nights at Celtic Park.
Martin saying Liverpool in transition, I feel would be good. Hazel's asking about the Champions League money breakdown. Hazel, I would love to explain it. I'd need to do my research for that bit, and it would probably take about 20 minutes. But we can maybe do that at some stage. I know that the money is definitely up this year, and I think I worked it out that if we do semi-decent in the tournament, if you bring everything into the equation, including ticket sales, could be looking at somewhere near £50 million, which is obviously a hell of a lot of money. More matches there. Thomas doesn't want Aston Villa, says he would not look out of place in pot 1 or 2. Maestro wants Barca. Not had Barca in a few years, have we? 2017?
Yeah, was it 2016, 2017? Did we get them 2 years in a row? Yeah. So we've not had them in a few years. 1 year because they beat us. Now is probably the best time to get them, especially at home. I would say now is the chance to get them, because they're a team with a lot going on off the park, as well as on it. I know they've just signed Dani Olmo, and he had a really good debut for Barcelona, so that's a good signing. And they've spent lots of money to get him, but they took ages to even register him, so it shows you kind of what's going on behind the scenes financially with the club. But Celtic Barcelona, it's got history behind it. Celtic, that famous night back in 2012. It'd be good to relive something like that. And really, I think we've seen the blueprint of the Champions League with that Atletico Madrid game, particularly in the first half of that Atletico Madrid game, when Celtic came off at half-time with that roar of the crowd, because you knew that they'd went right up against Simeone's Atletico Madrid. That's what you want to do. You want to bloody the nose of all of these European giants and really give them a fright, especially at Celtic Park. Make it a fortress and get some results as well. Make it a 90-minute performance and get those all-important results. 10 points is the aim.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of looking at the question's always like, do you want glamour or do you want a chance of getting results? And for me, there's a few glamour matches in there that would also be maybe slightly more forgiving than some of the other teams. Like I don't really fancy Real Madrid. We've done them. Man City. I just Man City are just probably too good, and also it's not really a game that would get you massively excited. They're not a kind of old, a historic club. Borussia Dortmund 100% would love that. Inter Milan would love that. They'd be my two, I think, from pot one, because, you know, glamorous, huge clubs, huge history, but also maybe just not quite. I mean, Inter Milan are pretty good, and so are Dortmund, but not quite. I mean, Dortmund were runners up last year, I'm realising, but no, maybe not quite at that, you know, Real Madrid, Man City level. In terms of pot two, I mean, do you fancy something a little bit different in there? Someone like Atalanta, potentially. You know, Bayer Leverkusen, I'm not sure I'd fancy them at the moment. Arsenal, I don't think I would. I think Benfica would be a fun one. Pot three, you're kind of looking to avoid teams we've played recently, aren't you? So you wouldn't really fancy Feyenoord again. Young Boys could be a decent one in there. I know they've qualified. I don't think they're doing particularly well in the Swiss league, so that could be a potentially a good one to get. Lille are in there, played them a few years ago. And then pot four, I think pot four, you're looking for the best chance of getting some results. And, you know, yeah, Aston Villa are obviously a tremendous team. Stuttgart, Bologna, Girona did well in big leagues last season. But you look at like Slovan Bratislava, those are teams we should definitely be able to compete with. Slovan Bratislava, Sparta Prague, Sturm Graz, Stade Brestois. You know, I'd maybe fancy one of them. Give us a real opportunity to get some points. Yeah, I can't wait for it. Just very briefly, Ryan, how the draw worked today. The UEFA, the draw is mainly going to be done, it's going to be mainly automated, almost entirely automated. So UEFA will start with the pot one teams. So all 9 balls will be in the wee tub they use. Someone will pick out one of the balls. Say that first team comes out as Real Madrid. A button, I think, will then be pressed, and you'll see all 8 of Real Madrid's fixtures coming up on screen, not necessarily in order, and we won't get the dates until Saturday. But as much as we're pot 3 and we'll have to wait until pot 3 for Celtic's ball to be pulled out, we'll have to be switched on throughout the draw, because our fixtures could come up from other teams. So if you get what I mean, like Real Madrid's fixtures could come up and it's like Celtic at home, and then suddenly we'll be like, oh yeah, we've got Real Madrid away, obviously. So we'll know 4 of our fixtures by the time our ball comes out, and then obviously we'll know the full 8 when that magic button is pressed.
Yeah, we're going to have beef with that magic button if we get a less favourable draw, aren't we? That's going to be the new sort of folk devil to worry about for Celtic. I'm just looking forward to it, looking forward to being... It's great that Celtic are involved in it, and it really does pay off all the hard work that Celtic did last season to get the title and to win the title, to be in there without needing to negotiate any qualifiers, which coincidentally is probably the reason why there's so many of these signings yet to be done, because they've taken their foot off the gas ever so slightly, because they don't need them for going into the Champions League if they're going there automatically, and they don't need to worry about that until the middle of September. I always look forward to the draw. I would always watch the draw regardless if Celtic were in it or not. I did watch it in the years that they were qualifying for Europa League, but it's exciting. Looking forward to see who Celtic get, to see where will we be going, where we'll be travelling, and what teams Celtic will be welcoming to Celtic Park. I just think it's a really exciting time to be a Celtic supporter. Get those transfers done, win against strangers, and get a favourable draw. It could be a really tremendous week if everything goes to plan.
Yeah, it's going to be some afternoon, 5 p.m. as I say. It will get underway Celtic Park time. But I'm happy to head off, Ryan, unless there's anything else.
I think that's absolutely everything. Thank you very much to everybody that joined us this morning. I know it was a bit of an earlier show. If you want to support us just a little bit more, though, please support our work by joining our YouTube members channel. £2.99 per month, and you'll receive early video access. That means you'll get early access to my analysis videos, Tony's podcast with Kevin McKenna, as well as other videos that we'll do over the coming days. You'll get priority comments and exclusive members chat functions.
And he's been silenced yet again. Great way to finish. Yeah, fabulous. Still silenced. We're going ahead, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the draw. Enjoy Celtic signing 3 players by this time tomorrow. Certainly not going to happen. We'll be back this time tomorrow on deadline day to do this all again. So thanks very much, chat.